Marlin Gibbs has been fishing the waters of the Pacific Northwest all his life. For the past 14 years, he's been one of the most sought-after river guides in Northern California. During the course of this tape, Marlin will share with you information on the selection of proper tackle, tips on what baits to use, why and when they work, and the most effective ways to use them. Instructions on how to read the river to pinpoint the exact location of trout, as well as demonstrations of techniques and strategies guaranteed to give you that insider's edge and increase your success as a trout fisherman.
I know it worked for me. My name's Greg Marlowe, and I had the opportunity to spend some time with Marlin fishing the upper Sacramento River for rainbows. I've always considered myself an average fisherman. If the fish were biting, I caught my share. But I was looking for someone who knew what river fishing was all about. I came to the right guide. The techniques Marlin demonstrates in this tape can be used wherever trout are found. And I assure you, there's something for everyone, from the first-timer to the most experienced fisherman.
Your fishing day starts long before you hit the river. Proper preparation will save you valuable time. Your tackle box must be together before you can even think of putting the boat in the water. Plan on and prepare the different baits and tackle you'll be using.
I have a standard setup of gear which will get me through any problems I might encounter once I'm on the river. Today we'll be fishing with night crawlers and salmon roe. Last night I pre-tied enough leaders with these baits in mind and took inventory of my tackle box to make sure I was covered for all situations.
Your morning hours are your best hours on the river. The trout don't feed during the night, and they're more aggressive. As the sun gets brighter, they'll go deeper or find different types of cover to protect them from the light.
I like fishing a sliding sinker setup for both night crawlers and salmon roe. This is designed to give the bait a natural look and feel in the river current. The most important part of this type of river fishing is weight control.
What determines the length of weight you use?
Well, there's quite a few things that will determine how much weight we'll be using. We'll be fishing different areas today, and some areas will be shallow and we'll be using very light weights, and some areas we'll be fishing will be like 8 to 12 foot deep and we'll be using some longer weights. But the ideal condition we're trying to duplicate here is just to get that very light natural tap along the river bottom. You just want your sinker just barely tapping the high points of the rocks. You don't want to be dragging the bottom really heavy. You're trying to duplicate the current speed of the river. If your weight is too heavy, the bait will travel slower than the flow and the trout won't pick it up. If your weight is too light, you'll get a fast sweep and the bait won't go deep enough to get to where the fish are. The sinker is trickling along the bottom. The bait is lighter and will be downstream. So when the fish hits the bait, it will be a completely natural load. The slider provides a natural feel of the bait to the fish. When a fish picks up the bait, he doesn't have to pick up the weight of the lead. The best weights you can buy are made of 3/16" lead core stock. You can pick them up at any tackle shop. Pencil lead sinkers are perfect for this type of bottom fishing. They can slide through rocks and snags that a standard swivel sinker would get hung up in. To make your sinkers, just cut off a piece of lead about 1/2 to 2 inches long. Flatten the end with the pliers and poke a hole in the top. Now after attaching the weight to your snap, put the slider on the end of your line. Take either eye of a barrel swivel and tie an improved clinch knot. This is done by wrapping the line 5 or 6 times around itself. Then put the end of the line back through the small loop you've created. Now push the end of your line through the larger loop. Cinch the knot halfway. Before you cinch it completely, be sure to wet the knot to eliminate any friction that can weaken your line. Now pull the knot tight, trim the excess, and the slider can now move freely up and down your line. For your leader, use about 18 inches of 6-pound test line. Using the same knot, tie the leader to the other end of the barrel swivel. This is a Kaylee or wide gap hook. It was designed to fish night crawlers. Notice the slow bend in the shank. It doesn't come straight back up like a regular hook. With this design, you can feed the worm straight up without damaging it, yet it will hold the worm tight and make it look natural. Okay, Greg, here's something that I find not many people know about, but it's going to give you the edge when you're fishing with night crawlers. It's a tool designed by a guide in this area. It's called a night crawler threader. It's made of a thin piece of model airplane gas line tubing mounted on a wooden handle. You take the night crawler about a ½ inch from the bottom, right below the band. This is the toughest part of the worm, and you'll want this at the bottom where the fish will strike first. Stick the end of the threader straight in the night crawler and feed it down the tube, right out the end. Now place the point of the hook into the end of the tubing. Hold your line tight. I'm left-handed, so I'm holding the line with my right hand. With your other hand, feed the worm around the hook and right up the line. Pull the night crawler to where you have just a little point of your hook showing. Now you have a much better chance of setting your hook the first time. A lot of people use the real long weights and they just kind of run up river, turn the key off, and just free drift down the river, but you have to adjust your weights accordingly to each area that you're fishing. Weight control is probably more critical than anything else that we'll be doing today.
If I don't have enough weight on it.
If you don't have enough weight, you're going to just be sweeping past the boat, be on like a free drift. Your bait won't be getting down deep enough to where the fish are. Your weight will be too light and you'll get a sweeping action and you'll just be fishing behind the boat. So you have to keep different size of weights handy. So each area you fish, you can be changing from one size to another. And the sizes that we're changing to are just not that much difference in all. We'll be changing like from an inch long piece of weight to maybe 3/4 of an inch long. And then the next area we'll go to, maybe the water will be a little bit slower. And we'll be hitting, using weights that are about ½ inch long.
Will you always go for a natural bait over an artificial bait?
I prefer natural baits over artificial baits. Some people say fishing with artificial baits is a lot more challenging, but on my job as a guide, I'm paid to produce fish and catch fish, and you can't beat natural baits. Natural baits will produce fish when you can throw everything in the book artificially at them, and they will take it. But as far as catching numbers of fish and making the best of your time, natural baits are the #1 producers.
This basic strategy can be applied to all types of trout fishing. You want to duplicate the river's food supply with a presentation that is both natural and appealing. To overcome the cautious nature of a feeding trout, you must be ready to use every trick in your tackle box. Careful attention to these details can make the difference in any type of fishing. A poorly hooked night crawler or delays while you retie a leader can make for a short stringer of fish and a long day of sightseeing.
Okay, he's coming right under the boat.
Yeah, we got the fish behind us. I want to back up on this fish. You don't want to hurt these fish. You want to handle them as little as possible, so we want to try to do this quickly, get these right out of the net and get this hook out of him and get him right back in the water. Yeah, this fish is
What can you tell me about that fish?
Well, he's about 1.5 pounds. He's a native rainbow. He's got some real pretty colors. And
male or female?
Well, it's really hard to tell at this stage until they get a little bit later into the spawning stage. But this kind of looks like a female because of the rounder nose. The males have just more of a little point on the nose. So we're going to just try to put them right back in the water, Greg, before they They get them stressed. Oh, that one was real lively, took right off. Sometimes you got to hold them for quite a while and just revive them a little bit. They get a little stressed and go into shock. Okay, let's try that again. That drift seems to be working pretty good. We've hooked a couple fish there, then we'll rebait and run back up and start all over. All the prep work in the world isn't going to do you any good if you can't find the fish. So what I like to do here is show you how to read the water. What I'm looking for is a natural food channel or food avenue. This is fast-moving water that's washing food particles from upriver past an area of slower-moving water where trout will lay. A trout will not fight against the current all day in order to pick up food. They will be expending more energy than the food would supply them. What they do is lay back in slower-moving water on the edge of the stronger current and wait for the flow to bring the food past them. Now they just dart out, grab a bite, and move back into calm water. So what you want to do is find this type of location and duplicate the drift of the natural food with your bait.
Marlin, on a drift like this, how would I locate the food channel?
Well, I'll show you what I mean. See that little chute over there? See how it comes in like a funnel? That's called a food channel. Now look at the water just to the left. See how it slows down? What you want to do is cast on the edge of the fast-moving water and glide the bait down the food channel past the fish that are laying back on the edges.
Food channels are as varied as the river bottom. A channel can run in a deep trough for a quarter mile or empty into a hole right below a riffle. Look for the combination of slow-moving water next to a strong current, and more often than not, there'll be some trout hanging around. Sometimes you may find even your smallest weight is too heavy. If you're on a good run and stop to make a new sinker, the drift could be over. But if you just reel in and trim the weight that's already on your line, you'll be right back in business. The bait is back in the water with the proper weight, and you've lost little of that valuable time on a productive run.
Oh, here's a nice fish. I just hooked the fish here. Get your line up, Greg.
Okay.
See, I didn't get a good set on him the first time, so I've popped him a couple more times to make sure that hook's in him. Don't be afraid to hook a fish a second time. If you get all the way to the top on the set and you don't feel a real strong pull and heavy action on the rod, go ahead and set it another time. Give it another pop. Remember, that fish isn't going to hook himself, so you really want to lay into him. He looks pretty tired, but wait for a good shot at him. Now scoop the whole fish.
Water temperatures affect the trout's rate of growth. The water on this river ranges from around 44 degrees in the winter to 52 degrees in the summer, so these trout will grow about 4 to 5 inches a year. Also, the males will have a more pointed nose than the females. Another important part of reading the river is understanding how to fish obstacles. What you're looking for is that same food channel, but now it's being broken up by a tree, some rocks, or other obstacles in the river. This creates a break in the flow that causes the water on either side to slow down. Look at the river and imagine what's going on underneath. The current is coming over the snags, narrowing or splitting the food avenue. It will then funnel directly behind to a holding area.
So we're looking for a break in the food channel.
Yeah, you're just looking for the current break. We don't have a whole lot of current right here. There's a good one coming up right behind us where there's some current running around both sides of that snag in the water. And that would be a perfect location for trout to lay right behind that snag, using it as a water break and then just darting out and grabbing bits of food that are being washed down along this bank line. What you want to do is let the obstacle get upriver from the boat. You don't want to be casting straight 90 degrees to it. Let the obstacle, you want to drift down below it, let it get up above you just a little bit so where you're casting back on the 45 again, and that's going to be your most natural drift. Just cast right in there behind it. It's a little deep water break there.
Now, if you fish a spot and you're not getting any action, you're already looking ahead to the areas downriver. You should constantly be looking ahead to the obstacles coming up to leave yourself enough time to reel in and cast to the next target. So this is the type of area you'll be looking for. A long drift with lots of obstacles.
There are several varieties of boats used in river fishing. Only you can decide the type of boat that is best suited to your style. The techniques we are using can be adapted to whatever boat you use. As a river guide, I prefer a jet boat. It can get me to wherever I want to go on the river in the least amount of time. When putting the boat in position to cast, make sure you don't get too close to your target and spook the fish. Line the boat up alongside the food channel with your engine in idle. Drift back as quietly as you can. Let the boat pick up the speed of the current. Guide the boat so the bow and the stern are directly in line with the current flow. The center line of the boat should be down the center line of the current. You will need to keep adjusting your gears from forward to reverse to neutral to maintain a boat speed that is consistent with the speed of the current on the bottom. If the boat turns sideways to the current, you'll no longer be able to control your speed. The bait will be dragged off the bottom at a speed too fast to interest the trout. Whatever type of boat you use, the important thing to remember is maintaining the natural bait drift speed. Because if you don't, all you're out for is a ride on the river.
In fishing, like most sports, a home field advantage is going to give you an edge. So take a look at the waters in your own backyard before you go cross-country in search of trout. Learn to read the indicators like texture and color changes on the river surface. Anything that can give you information about the depth and conditions below the surface. Watch the shoreline and look over the side of the boat. Remember the good drifts, and not only what time of day they were good, but what time of year. The water level of any river is constantly changing. If you fish a river with a dam upstream, check the rate of water release. This will have a definite effect on the location of the trout. After fishing on a river for a while, you'll be able to recognize patterns that will lead you to the most productive runs in the least amount of time. When an opportunity to try a new river does come up, fish it like you're back home. The same techniques will apply.
Marlin, I'm having problems distinguishing between the weight tapping on the bottom and the actual pickup by a fish.
Yeah, that is a problem for, I'd say, novices when they first start fishing and they're fishing in a river where a current situation is washing your sinkers across the bottom. And what it really takes is just total concentration on what's happening. The tap, tap, tap along the bottom that you're getting, like right now as you feel, is like a consistent strength in its tap, okay? And now when a fish picks it up, it's going to be a lot stronger tap, and it's going to get your attention. If it's a snag, it's just going to kind of take the whole rod down slowly and consistent. It's not going to be like an intermittent jerk. A bite is just kind of like an intermittent, real light jerk. And then when he does that, you'll want to lower the rod and feed to him.
Remember to keep your rod tip high and point it to where your line is entering the water. You don't want to pull sideways when the fish bites. Your hand should be securely on the rod with one finger holding the line. This way you have the most feel. As a fish bites, feed him by lowering the rod. When your hand is parallel to the water, set the hook with a sharp upward motion.
Oh, here's a fish. I got him. Here's a nice fish. Just hooked the fish.
Okay.
Okay, get your line cleared out of that area. I'm just going to reach down and turn the key off. When you hook these fish, the first thing you want to do is get on a free drift with them. You want that fish upriver from you. So you want to reach down, turn your key off, and go into a free drift. Feels like a nice fish. See what we got. Whoa, yeah, he's pretty strong. There he is right on the surface out here. The correct way is just not to horse these fish. Let him play that rod and take some line when he needs it. I've got my drag here set about a pound, pound and a half pull. He's coming around to this other side. I'll just get up here and see what we can see him.
Okay, once you have him this close, what's the best way to get him in the boat?
Proper way you want to land these larger fish, you get a big fish up next to the boat like this, and see, he's just under the surface out there. And that's okay. If the fish starts to get right on the surface and starts to break water, you just want to lower that tip down. Here, he's running under the boat here. You'll just want to lower the tip down and let him back in the water. A lot of large fish are lost right next to the boat. Let me get down below you, Greg. So see, we got him under the water, and he's not quite ready and not tired yet. But we don't want to pull him right to the surface because he's really going to start thrashing. And if he does start thrashing, all you got to do is lower the tip down just a little bit and he'll quiet right down.
When you catch a fish, you know you've read the water correctly, and chances are there's more trout in that same area. Trout will school according to water conditions, water levels, light intensity, and food availability. When these conditions change, the trout will move as a group. Finding these groups is a necessary skill to any fisherman.
Marlin, what kind of rod are you using today?
Well, Greg, I'm using an 8.5-foot graphite rod with one of the smaller spinning reels on it. It has a very sensitive tip, and it's really well suited for fishing with these real light sinkers, and especially for fishing with roe.
What about your reel?
Well, this is just kind of one of the medium light spinning reels. Holds about 150 yards of 6-pound test line.
And what do you have me fixed up with?
Well, I got you with an 8-foot graphite rod. It has a lighter spinning reel on it. And it's really well suited for all-around fishing for night crawlers, roe, or glow bugs. And it's a good rod for a beginner to start out with. It has a little bit more backbone, and the tip is not quite as sensitive.
As you can see, I prefer an open face reel, but use what you feel comfortable with. Whatever gear that will let you hit those tight spots. Don't be afraid to take chances. You have to get near that obstacle to put your bait where the fish are laying. And don't worry about losing your leader to a snag. This is a small gamble that's going to pay off with some big fish.
Got him? You got something. Real slow. Don't reel as you're coming up. Lower the rod and reel
Lower
down.
the rod, reel down, and pump up.
Reel's nice and smooth.
Okay.
Reel as you go down.
Reeling down.
Reeling. Quit reeling. Now just bring the rod up slowly. Reel as you go down. You're pointing the rod too much at the fish, Greg. Don't point the rod at the fish. Just go down to about 10 o'clock and then reel back up. Reel back down. More tension on the fish. You got to reel a little faster as you go down. Faster, faster. There you go. There you go. More tension, see? Real smooth. Real smooth.
Get him back in the water.
Pulling back over here. Up, real smooth up, real smooth up. All right, Greg, a really nice fish. Got yourself about a 5-pound fish, 4 or 5 pound. Nice, really nice rainbow.
Wow.
Take the pliers, take the hooks out.
All right, this is what we came for.
In some cases, a certain location on the river will tell you what bait to use. See this riffle right here? See how shallow the water is? Salmon will deposit their eggs at the top of it.
And trout will be laying behind the nest waiting for the eggs to roll out. Or when the opportunity presents itself, they will attack the nest. Below a riffle like this, during a salmon run, roe will attract trout when nothing else will get you a pickup. So it's in areas like these that I suggest you try fishing with salmon roe. Here's a roe leader setup we'll be using. It has 18 inches of 6-pound test line. The same sliding sinker setup we use with night crawlers. and a regular snelled hook with an egg loop. Roe takes more skill to fish than night crawlers. With roe, you only get one chance to hook your fish, because if you don't get him on the first pickup, your bait is gone. Just a slight pop of your rod and your roe is gone. This is where you need an edge if you're going to get a good set the first time. You take a regular hook and lay it in your hand, you'll see it's possible to slide the hook out. When a fish picks up the bait, a quick yank can slide the hook out of the fish's mouth in the same way. But if you give the point of the hook a good twist with a pair of pliers, you can see what happens. The fish bites down, and the twist won't allow the hook to slide out. You're not weakening the point of the hook, and will still be fighting the fish on the strongest part. By giving yourself this advantage, you'll be more likely to get a proper set on the first pickup. Roe is held together by a thin membrane. Cut off a small piece and slip it through the egg loop on the hook and pull the line tight. The best roe you can find is roe you've prepared yourself. This roe is out of a king salmon I caught last fall on this same river. I cured it in salt and borax, then kept it frozen until I was ready to use it. If you don't have your own roe, it can be found at most tackle or bait shops. Be sure to get roe that still has the membrane or egg sac with it, not single eggs. Also, avoid using the BB-size roe that comes from ocean salmon. It isn't fully mature and won't milk out the strong scent that the roe from the river salmon will. Keep all natural baits as fresh as possible by keeping them on ice whenever you're on the river. If I can't locate salmon roe, I often use glow bugs. They are imitation salmon eggs, and we'll be trying these a little later. We will be using the same techniques that we did with night crawlers. We've located the food channel, and we want to glide the roe down that channel past the holding area right below this riffle.
Okay, here's a bite. Here's a bite. Okay, what you want to do is just lower the rod and feed to them as they're biting. Just lower the rod and feed to them. Once you get down parallel, you just want to pop the hook and set it. Okay, I got him, but I don't think I got a good set. I'll reach down and pop it again.
When you don't have any salmon roe or are in short supply, glow bugs can be very productive. These imitation salmon eggs are fish just like real roe. Glow bugs come in many different colors and color patterns. Though they may work alone, I always try to attach a few real eggs to the hook. This method will not only conserve your roe, but will give the glow bug a natural scent that can change a light pickup to an aggressive bite and make it easier to hook the fish.
What you really line in, Greg? We went through a snaggy area up there and we've hit quite a few rocks in there. See, you picked up a case worm on the point of your hook. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Always be sure your hook is sharp, so every few casts, check the point. If it's bent or dulled by the action on the rocks and snags, take your pliers and straighten the point. Then use a hook stone. After wetting the diamond-impregnated surface, place the hook in the groove and, with an easy back and forth motion, sharpen it. No tackle box is complete without a hook stone.
How are you going to reel that baby in, Marlin?
You do that by adjusting with the tension on your reel. You just don't want to muscle these fish in. You want to keep some tension on him with a slow, steady pressure with him pulling up. See, now he just took off and ran down, and I just lowered the tension on him by lowering with him. So you want to reel as you go down, don't reel as you come up. Just pump up slow, just like I'm doing here. See, now he's running down. So I'm giving him a little line there. So pump up, 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 12 o'clock, and we're reeling down to just about 9 o'clock. And then starting all over. You don't want to crank as you're coming up. Just up slow to 12, reel as you go down. He's taking line right there, he's burning the drag, just hold him right there. You can't just point the rod at him and just turn the handle just like cranking the fish in. All you're doing when you're doing that is just spinning and twisting the line. You'll be weakening the line. So just keep the proper tension on him. You see he's burning drag right there. Just hold him. Starts to come back, pull up, reel down till you get that tension again. See, he's charging me a little bit right there. Thing to remember is just not to try to overpower the fish. You're out here to play fish, to have a good time, and if you lose a fish, it's fine. But you just don't want to overpower them. Okay, Greg, this one's ready to net. Oh yeah, this is a beauty here. Now, this is a native rainbow to this river here. I'd say this fish is about 5 pounds, maybe 5.5, 6 pounds. These fish are really pretty this time of the year. You can see the rainbow stripe colors on them. They're real silvery and very good fighters. So before we handle him too much, we want to just get him right back in the water so we don't hurt him. So we're just going to bend over here and see if we can bring him back to life. Got to work these fish a little bit after you catch them. Make sure they're okay before you let them go. This fish has got really stressed here while we've fought him for down the river for quite a while, and we're just going to have to wake him up. Want to give their gills a little oxygen, work them back and forth in the water a little bit, and I think he'll take off here in just a minute. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Go back home. Back home. Come on. Yeah, I think he's just about ready to go now. There he goes. He's off on his own.
All fishermen have their favorite bait, the one that they feel works best for them. Whatever bait you use for river fishing, the placement in the food channel will be the same. Once you locate the trout, success will be gauged by how well you present and place your bait, not by fancy casting or intricate rod action. Boat maneuvering, simple casting, and weight control are the important elements. Reading the river, setting the hook, and landing the trout are skills, and like all skills, they must be practiced to be perfected.
Okay, you got him.
Leave room for others to fish. Don't crowd the boat that got there first. Limit your catch. You don't always have to catch your limit. By releasing some fish today, you ensure good fishing tomorrow. Most importantly, open your eyes to the river. Look at it carefully and study its subtleties. You'll increase your enjoyment, make better use of your time, and catch more of those big trout you've been looking for.
Remember, you're out on the river to enjoy yourself. And the best way to enjoy yourself when you're fishing is to catch fish.
That's why concentration is so important if you're going to make the best of your time on the river. Have your mind on the bottom whenever you have your pole in your hand.
It takes practice, patience, and dedication. But by using the techniques that we've used today, and by getting to know your local rivers, you too can have the insider's edge to trout fishing.